Hey, what's up, guys? This is Gus. Road to the Death of Call of Duty, Episode 4, Black Ops. So, for those of you who are new to this channel, or new to this series, let me explain to you what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is I'm reviewing every Call of Duty, from the original Modern Warfare, up until Black Ops 2. And I'm just trying to figure out how the hell did we get from a game that we all love to play, Modern Warfare, where we could spend hours upon hours playing that game. I mean, hours I would play that thing, just having shitloads of fun. How did I get from that point to a game where I can only play maybe a couple months after the release before I just get sick and tired of it? Not because I'm losing, not because I'm having shitty games, but because the game is just so full of shit. The game is just packed with so much bullshit that it's just not fun to play anymore. So how did we get to that point? So before I get started into that, what you're seeing here is just a typical game for me. Nothing too spectacular, just an average game. I go a little bit positive here, and that's what I bring you on this channel. Like I've said many times, I'm not a great player, I'm an average player. You know, and I don't want to try to be deceptive and try to bring you guys these great gameplays. You know, if I get a great gameplay and my PVR is rolling, cool, I'll bring it to you guys. But I'm not going to go ahead, you know, and jump in and out of lobbies trying to find inferior competition like a lot of these guys do. You know, a lot of these guys who are supposedly good, they seek out the worst players. You know, they drop out of lobbies, they dashboard so that their KD isn't fucked up. They look for people with bad connections. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to play the game and bring you pretty much the games that I get. So anyway, that's what you get here. So moving on to this series, I went ahead and I played this game for about 2-3 hours. Just trying to get a feel, you know, for what I like, what I didn't like about the game. Just trying to refresh my memory a little bit. And right off the bat, when it comes to the graphics, it is what it is. It's pretty much what I've expected and would have gotten from Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2. So I'm not complaining. It's not a bad thing, but graphics are pretty much the same shit, year in, year out. So moving on from that, the maps. Now this game had great maps, just like in every Call of Duty. My personal favorites: Nuketown, Firing Range, Summit. Maps that usually I have great games on. I don't mean great games as far as like KD, shit like that, but just fun games. People are moving around, stuff like that. Now, of course, there's exceptions, but for the most part, I really like playing on those maps. But what this game had also was it had maps that were dark. Maps such as, I believe it's called Hanoi, with just dark corners where if the enemy were to hide in and either lie prone or not move, you couldn't see them. Now, a lot of you guys might be like, okay, well, what's the problem with that? There were other maps in older Call of Duties that were dark. I don't see the issue, but the thing is, and one thing I want you to keep in mind here is that as Call of Duty, a new one is released every year, what needs to happen is the game needs to evolve, because the players themselves, they're evolving. They're changing the way they played since the original Call of Duty. Since the original Modern Warfare, they've changed the way they play. They now seek out cheap advantages. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people that do. They seek out cheap things that they can take advantage of, glitches, so on and so forth. And what these dark corners did is they gave these people that we love to hate, called campers, it gave them a prime spot where they can just sit there and wait to pick people off. You know, and talking about the perks, I'm not going to dive into each and every perk, because for the most part this game had some decent perks, but they were overpowered by pretty much one perk. Now, it did have the shitty perk Last Stand where you can get revived. We know it sucks, but in my opinion, that was an annoyance. But the main perk that hurt this game was Ghost. Shit, once you get Ghost Pro, it was just horrible. Because shit, you are pretty much undetectable by everything except what, the Blackbird? So that's the thing, if you had an enemy with Ghost Pro, their name didn't fucking show up. You know, when you were looking at them, they could pretty much hide in these dark corners and just wait for you. You were fucking an easy target. It pretty much made the spy plane completely useless in this game. And that's a game, that's a thing, I'm sorry, 6 months into this fucking game, I would say, shit, most of the enemies were using Ghost Pro. So I would easily call up a spy plane, and I'd be lucky if 1 or 2 of the enemies showed up on the map. It wouldn't be uncommon to call up a spy plane and for it to be completely useless because no one was showing up. That was the thing, that's how bad and overused Ghost Pro was in this game. Now what else do I remember in this game? The guns. What they introduced in this game was the overpowered gun. Now in other games you did have some guns that were stronger, but it didn't deter people from using a variety of the weapons. Now in this one, people were using what, the same 2-3 guns? AK-74, FAMAS. In all the matches that I would play about 6 months into this game, most of the players in the game were using those 2 weapons alone. And that's the thing, that's what hurt this game, is the overpowered perk and the overpowered guns. That's where the variety totally left. That's, you know, variety went out the window with this game, is that now people are going to YouTube more often, finding out what were the cheap guns to use, the overpowered guns, the perks. Now to get back to like the dark corners and the Ghost Pro use, let's look at the kill streaks. Now they weren't bad. I didn't have a problem with many of the kill streaks, but some of these were pretty devastating. You get dogs, chopper gunner, you can easily rack up 10-15 kills with no problem at all. So you made it worth it, the developers made it worth it for these campers to camp. Now there were good players that can get these kill streaks by moving around. I'm not saying there's no good players out there, but for the majority of guys who are average or below, they resorted to camping. So what that gave you is you had a game that was now dominated by camping like it never was before. In the previous Call of Duties, you did have bullshit like noob tubes, endless noob tubes, so on and so forth, but in this game, it just seemed like camping was all over the place. You couldn't get through a game where people were using ghosts, people weren't hiding in corners, so on and so forth. And that was the thing. This game here was the turning point to where Call of Duty became cheap, Call of Duty became annoying. And that's the thing, a lot of these commentators, big YouTube commentators, were complaining about Ghost Pro, Ghost bitches, so on and so forth. So that's the thing, this game had the opportunity to change the way we look at Call of Duty. To turn the corner from where it was cheap in Modern Warfare 2 to turning it back into a solid game, but they just failed. With the introduction of Ghost Pro, overpowered guns, it just hurt the game so much because you went from a game that pretty much promoted running and gunning to a game that promoted camping. A game that no longer was, most matches took about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. You had games that were going the time limit because people refused to move. So anyway, next video in the series, Modern Warfare 2. I'm going to see if they made changes to make the game better, or if they just continue to make it worse. So anyway, I'm GusCunnilin, and I'm out.